Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. Well, today, we're going to talk about money. And once again, they're putting black people on money. Back in the slavery days, the American currency had the picture or the image of enslaved people. They were the stock and they were the bonds. So the word stocks and bonds actually came from the enslaved people. The stock as in livestock, like a horse or a cow or sheep or goat, as in animals. And the bond was their labor. So stocks and bonds came from the enslaved people. So here's some money from 1862, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, Florida, you name it. Black people would be on the face of that money, picking cotton or hauling cotton or ginning cotton or baling cotton or whatever they were doing. Now, back when President Obama was in office, there was a bill to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. And somehow that got derailed with President Donald Trump. And so far, that $20 bill with Harriet Tubman hasn't come out because I think they were talking about permanently replacing Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill with Harriet Tubman's face. So that's been held up in Congress. This time they're talking about putting Bessie Coleman on the quarter. So they've downsized for Bessie. So if they can't get Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill, maybe they can get Bessie on the quarter. Now, on the face of this, you might easily say, well, what difference does it make? Because individually, these are just token gestures. But collectively, this is documentation of our history. Whenever your face appears on money, that makes a statement about your relevance in a society. So I say it's fine. It's not going to help anybody. It's not going to add anything to your paycheck. But when you look at it, the overall picture of African Americans or Black Americans or Africans or ADOS or FBA or whatever we call ourselves, when we look at our collective history, it is important. And I got this story from Essence Magazine, and it said that the United States Mint unveiled 5 women who will appear on Quarters in 2023 as part of the 4-year series celebrating women's contributions to American history. And Bessie Coleman is one of the women. And if you're not acquainted with her, this is a good time to become acquainted with her. In 1921, at 29, she became the first African American, and she was also part Native American, to win an aviator's pilot's license. Now, it must be noted that she had to go to Europe. She trained in France and in Germany. They would not train her here in the United States. So she had to go abroad to get the license. But Bessie became a sensation in the world of stunt flying. She had crowds mesmerized by her stunts and her bravery. And it is important to note that Bessie Coleman came before Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart was like a long distance flyer. She was flying for distance and breaking records. But Bessie was just putting on a show. She was a stunt flyer and she was the it girl of her day. But she had a social conscience. This is really important. 2 things I want to mention about Bessie. First of all, she was sponsored by Black people. Black people sponsored her, and this is in the 1920s. After high school graduation, Bessie entered Langston University in Oklahoma, but she ran out of money and had to leave school. She moved to Chicago to live with one of her brothers. In Chicago, she got a job in a beauty salon. Men and women would come into the salon for manicures and things. The publisher and founder of the Chicago Defender, Robert Abbott, listened to her talk about her excitement about flying, and he encouraged her to learn how to fly. And so since she couldn't get trained in the United States, he wrote about her in the Chicago Defender, about her desire to fly, become a stunt flyer, and his subscribers raised the funds for her to go to Europe to train to be a pilot. He continued to sponsor her and introduced her to other black businessmen who would sponsor Bessie Coleman. So Bessie was sponsored and financed by black people. The second thing about Bessie was that she spoke up for black people. She refused to put on a show or speak before any audience that discriminated against African Americans. Bessie Coleman was born in 1892 in Atlanta, Texas. And yes, there is a such place as Atlanta, Texas. She was born to a sharecropping family. She was one of 13 children. Her father was African American and Cherokee, and her mother was African American. In those days, everybody was African American and something, so that was her admixture. On November the 20th of 1920, Bessie Coleman traveled to Paris, France to begin flying lessons. She stayed in Europe until September of 1921, where she returned to the United States with her international pilot's license. Back in the United States, she started putting on air shows. Bessie Coleman, it is reported, had a flamboyant style and that she quickly gained a reputation as a skilled and daring pilot who would stop at nothing to complete a difficult stunt. Now, it must have been something to see this black woman up in the air, whirling around doing figure eights and something she called the loop, and just flying around and doing her thing. That must have been something to see. But she was it. Black and white people crowded out her shows because she was an exciting pilot and stunt flyer. You have to wrap your mind around the idea that in 1920 something, you got a black woman flying an airplane and doing air shows. I don't even know that we have that now. So she was the first. She was an extraordinary woman. But she went down in history, and during that time, people knew about her. But her name got lost in the history books because that's the way it works. But we always have a way of going back and digging up our history because somebody knows and somebody wrote it down. So that is how we discover a lot of our history. Somebody knew about it, somebody wrote it down, and somebody put it in the newspapers. So that's how she got known. But we're always there. This is what I think is important for us to always remember. We've been there at everything that has happened in the United States. We've been a part of it, whether creating something, inventing something, or making something better. We have been there and we are still there. Bessie started flying during the early days of flying. This is early aviation in the United States. So this was a very important time in American history. So this is what she said. The air is the only place free from prejudices. I knew we had no aviators, neither men nor women, and I knew the race needed to be represented along this most important line. So I thought it my duty to risk my life to learn aviation. That is a powerful statement. Bessie was young, she was beautiful, and she had charisma, and she had courage. She was nicknamed Brave Bessie, Queen Bess, and Queen of the Skies. Even now when I read about her, I'm astonished at her courage and her insight. She saw the need to represent the black race even when nobody was expecting that of her. Mae Jemison, who was the first African-American astronaut, said, "It's tempting to draw parallels between me and Miss Coleman, but I point to Bessie Coleman and say, here is a woman, a being who exemplifies and serves as a model for all humanity, the very definition of strength, dignity, courage, integrity, and beauty." Yes, she was beautiful, and she represented well. And so I think that we should applaud Bessie. She's receiving now what she should have received in her lifetime. And there are many, many accolades for her now. So being put on the quarter is just the next step in recognizing a great lady. So hats off to brave Bessie, Bessie Coleman, who died in Jacksonville, Florida on April the 30th, 1926. It was the day before she was going to put on a show, and she was practicing jumping from the airplane. She was going to do a parachute jump when the plane crashed. She was only 34 years old. And Bessie was flying in a raggedy plane. But anyway, thanks to Bessie for being brave and for representing us. Thank you for listening. Subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Share the video. And as always, have a great day.